Recently, we recorded the top 10 2022 board games, which you'll be seeing on the channel shortly, and in doing so, in ranking those, I realized some games that had fallen kind of heavily on my list, and I also just noticed a shift in my tastes, really. There are games that I used to really like, or types of games that I used to really like, that I no longer do, and that I kind of find boring. I still think they're good games. I'm just realizing that for me, there is a type of game that I like and an experience that a game provides that I like that they might not. So I want to talk to you about 5 games in particular that have fallen down my rankings, as well as just a general discussion throughout as to how my tastes have changed. Let's jump in real quick with number 1. These are in no particular order whatsoever. Cascadia. I actually had the pleasure of playing it this past weekend with Emily, Doolin, and Kyle, and we all thought it fell flat. It was just boring and overly long, and I used to think this was one of my favorites of that trilogy, Cascadia, Calico, and Verdant, and it's now my least favorite of the 3. I still believe that it is the best game of the bunch for introductory players and players who are not experienced in board games, because there's just a bit more ability to focus on what you're doing, and there's less to really think about. Something like Cascadia is just a brain burner of a puzzle, and something like Verdant is just in between, in my opinion. And I've gotten to the point now where I'm gonna call this, and I may be wrong, this is just a me definition, a max definition, I'm gonna call this a coffee game. What I mean by that is a game that many people would likely be enjoying over a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. And the more that I play board games and the more that I have these high highs and low lows, the more that I'm realizing that I'm not a coffee board gamer. I don't particularly enjoy the chill, relaxing board games. And that's not to say I can't, and that's not to say I never will. It's just one of those things that if I'm sitting down at a table with my limited time to play a board game, I want an engaging and social experience. It's one of those things that when I play a board game, I want to be interacting with the people around me, and I want the mechanics to help that a bit. Now, there are plenty of games that I adore that aren't super social heavy games, but it helps a lot. And I find something like Cascadia is fairly heads down, very little discussion, very little talking, very little hate drafting, and maybe that's just the way that we play, but I just don't particularly love them. And this is coming from someone who used to enjoy Welcome To a lot, and I still do like that game, but it's in that same genre as something that does not have a lot of table talk, that does not generate many exciting conversations. And I just find that those games in particular are going to be the ones that you see falling down my list, and the games that you see high on my list are going to be the games that ignite that social behavior in me. And I don't know what it is, but it is a change that I've noticed. Now, moving on to my second game on this list, again, not ranked in any particular order, and actually this one I'm going to put an asterisk by it because you very well may be seeing this in top game of the year lists. So I will spoil it a little. This is Mythic Mischief by IV Studios. Now, you will see this in my top 10 2022 board games list, and it absolutely deserves to be there. This hasn't changed since I made the video 2 days ago. This has just changed since I first played it. Now, when I first played this game, I would have told you it was probably my #1 favorite game of 2022. And then the more I played it, to clarify, I still love this game. It's on my top 10 2022 list, and I implore you to try it. But the cracks started to show. The things, the negatives, the things that really detract from the game started to shine through. And it is one of those that I still adore, but it is not nearly as high as it was for me initially. I think as you're playing the game for the first few times, you are so focused on what you need to do that you don't realize some of the bad things about it. And really, when I say some of the bad things, I mean one bad thing, and that's just the amount of analysis paralysis and sitting there with your hands held while you wait for another player to take their turn. When you're playing it for the first couple of times, it's almost just so overwhelming, and you're trying to think of what you can do that you don't even care, and that's good. But the more you play it, the more you realize that that AP doesn't really ever go away, and you also begin to realize that it's hard to plan out your turn when everything that you're planning can be wildly shifted by the time it comes back around to you. That's not to say that you should sit there playing Marvel Snap on your phone like I've done before, but it is hard to really put that much forethought into it when something can change so drastically. So this is Mythic Mischief, a chess-like abstract board game with variable and asymmetric player powers that is super, super fun, but it is one that I struggle to want to pull out time and time again, because I know that when I'm sitting there playing with somebody, it's going to be me taking my turn and then waiting for 5 minutes, and then them taking their turn and waiting. And this is why Doolin and I have literally purchased a chess clock and want to bring chess clock gameplays to the channel, starting with Mythic Mischief, because I do feel like it fits that mold of something that could greatly benefit from, hey, your time is limited and you need to take action or you're going to lose. I think that sounds really exciting, and maybe we'll bring more of the trash talk back. But Mythic Mischief is a great game that I still love deeply, but it's just, it started to show some faults that I hadn't seen before. So back to the conversation earlier, it's just one of those things where games like, without spoiling too much, social deduction games, or very heavy interaction games, or party games that just generate so much laughter and joy when you're playing them, are going to be so much higher on my list than games that don't. Now, this isn't a 2022 board game, so I'm not spoiling anything, but you all know how much I absolutely adore Dune Imperium, and you could almost lump it in with a game like that that doesn't really have that much interaction, but I guess the way we play it, it does. When I'm playing Dune Imperium, it is a constant tension, a constant threat of what your players and opponents are doing to you, what they're figuring out their puzzle and their engine on their own, and it is just exciting every moment of the way. And these games that are more so along the lines of just a coffee game, or a game you just kind of relax and enjoy, is just not my wheelhouse. I want the tension, the nervous energy, the excitedness, the discussion, the laughter, and this is something fairly new to me. I mean, that I'm only realizing probably since I fell in love with Blood on the Clocktower, which, again, you know, that it's made me rekindle and reignite that relationship with these more social games that I didn't have before, and made me realize how much I crave that and how much it means to me, how important it is to my gaming experience. Now, on to the third game. I don't have this one here with me, but it's A Feast for Odin. Now, I've only played this game one time in person, but I've probably played it 18 times total, or 15. I just checked on VG Stats before this, but the majority of those coming from Board Game Arena. Now, Board Game Arena is not conducive to a lot of discussions, so already that's gonna have a bit of an asterisk, a bit of a slash through it, because I've played almost exclusively online. But this is a game that I really, really, really loved, and although I still really, really like it, it's fallen down, and I've come to the point now where it's funny. Dylan and Carlo have their bickering from A Feast for Odin and Agricola, and I think Caverna is the best of the three. To clarify, I do think Feast for Odin is better than Agricola. I would rank it Caverna, Feast for Odin, Agricola, but it's just something about it that it almost feels solved at this point. And not that I can win every time. I don't mean that, because I certainly can't, but I feel like I know what most of the best things to do are. And I have not played it with the Norwegian expansion, and I imagine that I need to, and I want to. But this is a game that was so high for me for a while, and then after repeated and repeated plays, it became a game that just felt like I was going through the motions. I think that sentence right there going through the motions is what I have been attempting to weed out of my brain the past 10 minutes. Going through the motions in a board game is so deeply, it's just boring. When a game I play has me just going through the motions, that is usually the light bulb in my head that's like, I'm not loving this. It might be good, it might be great even, but it's not a game that sparks that Marie Kondo joy inside me. And I find that A Feast for Odin is, at least now on Board Game Arena, without the expansion, a lot of asterisks here, folks, at least now it is a game that does not spark joy. I still enjoy it. Do I make any sense at all? I still enjoy the game, and I have fun with the puzzle, but there's a big difference between a game that I enjoy and I have fun with than a game that actively brings me joy. At least to me. I don't know. Have you experienced something like this where you have games that you like and that you enjoy playing, but they don't spark that love inside you? I don't know, guys. I don't know, y'all. Maybe I'm just silly. Maybe none of this makes any sense at all. But it's all I can think about is these games that really just spark something and ignite a fire in me, and those that don't. The fourth game is Green Team Wins. This is a party game by 25th Century Games, kind of along the lines of Just One, something like that. And when I first played this at PAX Unplugged 2021, I was in love with it. It was a 10-player game. We were all content creators, for lack of a better term, and we got into it. And I do think that that absolutely helped it. And if I had that experience again, it would probably reignite a bit of love for the game. Ultimately, playing with groups that get really into games is kind of where most things begin to shine. But Green Team Wins is a game that I've played many of times, and I've had some really great experiences with it and some really meh experiences with it. And it's not that I think it's a bad game. In fact, I think it's quite a good game. But when I first played it, I was like, ooh, this is fighting for Just One. This and Just One are going to be dueling off for quite some time. This game is right up there. And after having played it a dozen times, I pretty confidently can say that I prefer Just One. Just One's not even my favorite party game, but I would prefer the likes of So Clover, Just One, Monikers to Green Team Wins. I do think Green Team Wins is a lot of fun, and I like that it is something different to that Just One. If you've played that game a million times and someone wants to try something similar but not the same, I think it's a great one. I think you should absolutely try it. Green Team Wins is a lot of fun, but it has fallen from what I expected to be a real competitor with Just One to now what I believe to be a very good party game, but not up there with the greats that I consider the top 5. Now, the last game on my list is another game that is actually, it just missed my top 10 of 2022. So I still love this game. It just missed my top 10 of 2022, and that is Long Shot, the dice game. This is the dice rolling, horse racing, betting, roll and write kind of game. And again, much like Green Team Wins, when I first played Long Shot, I think I claimed that I preferred it to Camel Up. And the more I play it, the more I believe that not to be true. I do think it is still a great game. Again, it was literally my number 11 on my top 10 2022 board games, but it has fallen out of favor with that. Just like Green Team Wins and Just One, Long Shot Dice Game has fallen behind Camel Up, mostly for exciting, raucous fun. I would much rather play Long Shot the Dice Game with, you know, if I had to play into a group blind, if I had to just be like, bring a game, you're gonna play with these 5 people you've never met, 4 people you've never met, whatever it is, I would play Long Shot the Dice Game, 100%. But if I'm playing with my friends that I know are going to get into the spirit of Camel Up and into the excitement of Camel Up and dropping the little poop out of the poop dice out of the pyramid and just laughing and having a great time slamming down their betting cards, that's going to accelerate that game far past Long Shot the Dice Game for me. So I think Long Shot the Dice Game is going to be a more consistent board game where you have very enjoyable plays, but Camel Up is going to be a much swingier board game. You can have worse plays with people that don't really care, get into it, and you can have excellent plays with people that absolutely adore it. This is not on the list, but something like Ready, Set, Bet is such a group-dependent game. Just a game that is going to fall incredibly flat or be incredibly amazing depending on who you're playing it with. And I think that throughout my playing this year, I've just realized that those games are where it's at for me. Like the games that really bring out the best of the people around you, that bring out the most laughs, the most yelling, the most cursing maybe even, I don't know, but the games that just get everybody emotional and excited and into it are the games that I love the most. So I hope that I made at least a little bit of sense talking to you about my change in tastes in board games, and I hope that you share with me down below in the comments what changes have you gone through? Are you the opposite of me? Are you following a similar trajectory as me? Or have you not changed at all and you've been very constant throughout your whole life? It's just one of those things that I've been experiencing and I felt like sharing, as well as adding in a handful of games that have fallen down for me. Keep in mind, I still really adore all 5 of those games. They have just certainly fallen from their highest highs, and they are no longer right up there with the best, but they're still really darn good games. So if you have any that you want to talk about, absolutely let me know down in the descriptions below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. It really does help us a lot, and it means so much to us that you're here watching and enjoying our channel. We'll see you next time.